So this video is for those of you that are studying the separate sciences but couldn't make it into school for the lessons in the last couple of weeks. So this is going to cover the key points from chapter 4 that you have been studying under lockdown. So you will need the worksheet that accompanies this lesson. If you can't print the worksheet off, you'll just need to make some notes or draw out the equivalent onto paper or into your book. So the first side we're going to look at is this side here, because we're going to be covering the key points for photosynthesis. So photosynthesis, you need to know the word equation for photosynthesis. So you need to know that water plus carbon dioxide is converted into glucose plus oxygen in the presence of light and chlorophyll. You do not need to know the chemical equation for photosynthesis, but you do need to know the chemical formulae for water, carbon dioxide, glucose and oxygen. So you should know by now that water is H2O, carbon dioxide is CO2, glucose is probably the newest one to you, C6H12O6, and oxygen is O2. So you do need to know those chemical equations. You may be asked what they are in an exam. Okay, the other key thing that comes out from this is that photosynthesis is an endothermic reaction. So light energy from the environment is transferred into chemical energy by the chloroplast. So essentially it takes in energy from its surroundings in the form of light energy. So there are things that limit how quickly photosynthesis can take place, and you need to know the 4 key limiting factors for photosynthesis, which are temperature, light intensity, and it is really important that we write down the word intensity, carbon dioxide concentration, and again it's really important in exams, remember to write down the word concentration, not just carbon dioxide, and the amount of chlorophyll. Now this is only important if your plant is variegated. This is a variegated plant here. Some bits are green, some bits are white. Right, so the white bits contain no chlorophyll. So this leaf would not be able to photosynthesize as much as a leaf that is completely green. So this type of graph often appears in exams, and it's looking at limiting factors in terms of what is limiting photosynthesis at each point on the graph. So on the bottom we have got light intensity, and up the side we have got rate of photosynthesis. So increasing light intensity, increasing rate of photosynthesis. Now sometimes this graph won't have light intensity at the bottom, sometimes it may have carbon dioxide concentration, or it may have temperature. But in this scenario it's light intensity. So you'll be asked to identify, you could be asked to identify what is limiting the rate of photosynthesis at any one of these places. This is called a plateau. Okay, so at A, it is the light intensity that is limiting the rate of photosynthesis, because at any point along here, so if we draw some little lines on here, any point along here, so hello, not a good line, here's our rate of photosynthesis here. We're going to increase the light intensity. Okay, and here is our rate of photosynthesis here. So on this sloping line, all the way up the sloping line, what is limiting the rate of photosynthesis is whatever is on the x-axis. It's not here. Doesn't matter here what we do to our light intensity, our rate of photosynthesis stays the same. Okay, so whether our light intensity is here, it's the same. Here, it's the same. So that means that at B, something else is limiting it. And that's where we need to have a look at this information here. So line B is happening at 20 degrees and at 0.4% carbon dioxide. Line C is at 30 degrees, so it's a higher temperature and the same amount of carbon dioxide, concentration of carbon dioxide. So at B, what's limiting it here is the temperature, because when we increase the temperature, we increase the rate of photosynthesis. At C, we're at a higher temperature, but we're increasing the rate of carbon dioxide. So at C, it's carbon dioxide that's limiting the rate of photosynthesis. And at D, we've got that higher carbon dioxide concentration, but we've also got a higher temperature going on up here. So at D, it must be our temperature that is limiting the rate of photosynthesis. So there's an exam question you can print off. I suggest you pause the video, have a go at the exam question. So the exam question is very simple. It says the graph shows how the rate of photosynthesis is affected by different conditions. What patterns can you find from this graph? So you need to discuss the general pattern that's going on there from light intensity. You need to discuss the effect of carbon dioxide, and you need to discuss the effect of temperature. So what would this question look for? It would look for an increase in light is an increase in photosynthesis as a general point. But that only carries on up to a point where it flattens or plateaus out. It does that because something becomes limiting. It could be carbon dioxide, could be temperature. If we increase carbon dioxide, we increase the rate of photosynthesis. If we increase temperature, we increase the rate of photosynthesis. So those would be your 5 marking points. So now we're going to have a look at the key points of respiration, and this is where the second side of your worksheet comes in. So we've got a little bit about aerobic, a little bit about anaerobic, and a little bit about exercise. Again, aerobic respiration, you need to know the equation. It's just the reverse of photosynthesis. If you're ever stuck, just think to yourself, what am I breathing in? I'm breathing in oxygen. What am I breathing out? I'm breathing out carbon dioxide. Try to always think about those things. But what you need to remember about respiration is that all cells respire all of the time. So even plants carry out respiration, but they carry out more photosynthesis than they do respiration so that they can grow. As soon as anything stops respiring, it dies. And respiration happens inside the mitochondria in the cells. And again, you need to know those chemical formulae, but you know those from photosynthesis. Now, there's 2 types of anaerobic respiration. Anaerobic respiration is respiration without oxygen. And in animals, it takes place under extreme exercise regimes when you can't get enough oxygen into the body. But in other organisms, such as yeast and some plants, they can carry it out whenever they like to. So, the 2 types of anaerobic respiration are alcoholic fermentation. This is when the organism takes glucose and no oxygen and produces ethanol and carbon dioxide. We use that to help make bread rise, to help make beer, champagne, things like that. In animals, what happens is the glucose is broken down into lactic acid. And this happens when we're doing lots of intense exercise, we can't get enough oxygen to the body. We can only do this for a very short period of time because it only releases a very small amount of energy. So, key points to remember about the effects of exercise on the body. So during exercise, the heart rate increases, the breathing rate increases, the breathing volume or depth increases. Sometimes what people write is breathing increases. That doesn't tell the examiner anything. You have to say the heart rate increases, the breathing rate increases, or the depth or the volume increases. And these all happen so that we can get more glucose and oxygen to the cells and remove more carbon dioxide and sometimes lactic acid in anaerobic respiration from the cells. Okay, so we must remember those key points. And basically then, respiration can happen as efficiently as possible. So again, I suggest you pause the video and have a look at this exam question. Okay, and then you can check it using these answers. Okay. Right, so that is the end of this. I hope you enjoyed it, and this is the work you need to do to consolidate what has been taught in school if you couldn't make it recently. Thank you.